Cursed rules. A police officer reveals the sinister truths hidden in the haunted Catskills. The air was thick with dread as Officer Mark Thompson cruised through the shadowy streets of Pine Hollow. The town, draped in flickering streetlight remnants, whispered spine-chilling tales of the cursed rules. They sneaked into conversations, fueling fires of paranoia at coffee shops. Every night shift, Mark felt the oral history wrap around him like a noose. Dark secrets lingered, like hidden phantoms ready to pounce. Was he doing enough? Was he even safe? His heart raced as he caught a glimpse of a distant shadow flitting past the trees. That old feeling turned his stomach vague and unsettling. He could almost hear the hushed legends creeping up on him as he remembered last month's terrifying report. A family vanished, leaving behind only echoes of laughter and a tainted love that haunted their home. Since then, it felt like a storm brewed on the horizon. Tension crackled. Then came the call, "Mark, we need you at Cedar Lane." Another family. The world tipped. He had never been one to shun his duty, but these mundane calls now dripped with venom. As he sped along the winding road, memories of sweet evenings at home with Emma and Lily clawed at him. Would they remain untouched, or were they in the crosshairs of an unseen menace? Upon arrival, the scene was all too familiar. Neighbors cast anxious glances, almost avoiding eye contact, as if the mere act could unearth dark truths. Words slipped into the void, "Don't go into the woods and you don't want to know," scrawled like warnings into his subconscious. The trees loomed menacingly, grotesque limbs bare, swaying gently as the wind carried unnatural cries. His mind reeled, questions consuming him. What ancient evil thrived hidden among the roots? Mark, a shivering voice pierced through thoughts like broken glass. Old Mrs. Jenkins. She gripped his arm. "You can't trust anyone." Her eyes, wild and panicked, revealed fragments of a deeper fear. He had heard snippets of her warnings before, but now those words forged a steel grip around his heart. He nodded, though chills raced up his spine, alive with suspicion. Before the dread fully settled, a memory crashed into him. The dinner table filled with laughter now felt like a fragile memory sinking into darkness. What crept in the shadows wasn't just folklore, it was a monstrous truth hiding beneath the picturesque surface. His breath quickened, paranoia tightened its grasp. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Mark raced home, shadows loomed, stretching and distorting through his windshield. The sensation clawed at his chest as he envisioned dark figures lurking behind every tree. Would he find Emma and Lily waiting, or the impending darkness ready to swallow them whole? As he approached his front door, his heart hammered like a relentless drum. Inside, everything seemed still, too still. Then, on the kitchen table, the note, weathered and hastily left behind. "They're coming for you." No joke. No prank. Pure terror coiled within him, feeding on doubts. He rushed outside, only to catch a fleeting glimpse of something darting among the trees. Fear clawed at sanity. Those shadows were alive, now more than tales, now an undeniable presence. What sinister truth waited to be revealed? And why did it feel so personal? In the chilling silence, Mark knew the rules were no longer whispers, they were a thunderous warning. Heart racing, Mark burst from his front door, eyes scanning the darkness. The moon barely pierced the heavy canopy, shadows dancing like phantoms between the trees. He took a deep breath, stifling the urge to scream, clutching the note tighter as anxiety coursed through him. "They're coming for you." The words echoed like a chant in his mind, a haunting melody he couldn't escape. "Emma. Lily." He called, the sound swallowed by the night. No response. Panic clawed at him, sharp and relentless. He forced himself to think, to focus. They had to be inside, safe, but the deeper whispers of dread told a different story. The shadows were alive, yes, but so was the sinister history of this town. He dashed toward the woods, driven by instinct. As he stepped past the property line, a shiver danced along his spine. The air was colder here, almost biting. The woods seemed to conspire against him, branches creaking and crashing in a cacophony of warnings. "Don't go," and it resonated from Mrs. Jenkins' frail voice and burrowed deeper into his doubts. Each step took him farther from the safety of his home and deeper into the twisted veins of the forest. The trees stood like sentinels ready to trap him in their tangled embrace. Shadows flickered just on the edge of his vision, darting away whenever he turned. Was it just his mind playing tricks, or was something watching him? His heart pounded a relentless rhythm as he pushed through the underbrush, a cold sweat forming on the back of his neck. The path grew narrower, and before long, he stumbled upon a clearing. The moonlight broke through, illuminating a small stone altar, half hidden by weeds. Unease settled over him like a suffocating blanket. The altar was old, marked by time, but the grotesque symbols carved into its surface pulsed with a strange energy. This was no ordinary place. Suddenly, a noise snapped him from his focus, a soft rustling, like the whisper of leaves, but deeper. Mark's body tensed, muscles coiling. Shadows pooled at the edge of the clearing, creeping toward him like the slow advance of a tide. The air thickened, stinging his lungs. "Mark." A voice, a familiar, sweet whisper. His breath hitched. "Help us," it sounded like Emma. No, it couldn't be. "Emma!" he shouted, the word slicing through the suffocating fog as he raced toward the sound. "Lily! Where are you? Help us!" the voice echoed again, just beyond the edge of the clearing, where darkness swallowed the light. It beckoned him closer. He hesitated, dread tugging at him. He knew it was a trap. But they were his family. He couldn't abandon them. Taking another step, he felt the ground shift beneath him, the altar crackling with energy as if it were alive. The shadows stirred, writhing like angry serpents. Mark's instincts screamed at him to turn and run, but something deep within the unyielding bond of love pulled him closer. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, wrapped in shadow like a cloak. It stood tall, its face hidden but unmistakable. The outline shuddered, and the air turned rancid. "You shouldn't have come here," the figure hissed, voice twisted and distorted. Fear gripped Mark, immobilizing him. "Leave now," it commanded, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. Mark stumbled back, heart racing. Was this evil haunting their town? Was it connected to the vanished families? He had to know. The moment stretched, tethered by fear and resolve. Then, the figure lunged. In that instant, Mark turned to run, but darkness enveloped him, and he fell into nothingness. What had just happened? Did he really lose? What would come of Emma and Lily? The cursed rules spiraled tighter, problems piling upon him as the shadows began to take shape. The weight of terrible decisions pressed down on him, as chilling laughter echoed in the distance. In the suffocating silence, one question beat in his mind: what will he sacrifice to save his family? Mark awoke with a jolt, heart pounding, gasping for air. The atmosphere felt thick, like he was submerged in icy water. He squinted against an oppressive darkness, struggling to grasp his surroundings. It was silent, too silent. A mere echo of his breaths amplified every shadow, making his pulse quicken. He sat up slowly, feeling the rough ground beneath him. Panic surged as he remembered the figure. Had he really escaped? Where was Emma? Where was Lily? He pushed off the ground, his hands trembling as he pushed back tangled leaves and twigs. A faint glimmer caught his eye, a sliver of moonlight peeking through the trees. He pushed on, desperate to find the life he knew. Moving cautiously, he stepped forward, but the underbrush was unforgiving. As branches snapped underfoot, it felt as if the forest itself was angry with him. Each rustle felt menacing, like whispers urging him to leave. Yet the thought of abandoning Emma and Lily gnawed at his insides, worse than any lurking shadow. Emma. Lily. He called again, but his voice wavered, swallowed whole by the forest. The silence surrounding him was maddening. His mind raced a twisted carousel of fears. What if he was too late? The thought made his stomach twist, nausea creeping in. But every moment spent in doubt was time wasted, they could be in danger. Ahead, he saw a flickering light quivering between the trees. Hope swelled in his chest, a fragile thing, but it pushed him onward. As he neared, the faint glow morphed into a wild flame, snapping and sparking. It was a fire primitive and alive, surrounded by crude symbols carved into the dirt. Mark felt a chill run down his spine as he recognized the same markings from the altar. The air throbbed with a thick energy. He knelt, fear creeping through his veins. What was happening? Why were these signs here, and why did they feel so familiar? He traced one symbol with shaking fingers, the heat of the fire casting eerie shadows that danced violently across the ground. Mark! A cry pierced through the encroaching night, slicing through the tension like a knife. It was Emma's voice. Help us! His heart leaped, but it was quickly tainted by desperation. Where are you? He responded, a tremor in his voice. From the shadows stepped another figure. It moved slowly, deliberately, revealing it to be a woman, shrouded in dark fabric that fluttered like smoke. The fire flickered, and for a brief moment, Mark could see her features, those unmistakable eyes, Emma's eyes. Mark! You have to. Before she could finish, she was yanked backward, as if a giant hand had pulled her away into the darkness. A guttural laugh echoed from behind the flames. Mark's heart seized, terror flooded his senses. No! Emma! He ran toward the voice, but the flames leaped higher, consuming Emma's figure. The laughter continued, jagged and cold, echoing throughout the woods. Mark's thoughts raced like wildfire, swirling chaos. What kind of monster lurked here? Who was this thing that toyed with his family? The shadows twisted and shifted, morphing into nightmarish forms. They seemed to pulse as if alive, closing in on him. He had to act. Steeling himself, he tore away from the fire, using sheer adrenaline to plunge deeper into the woods in pursuit of Emma. Frantic breaths filled the air, loud and desperate. Each step took him further into darkness, stretching the silence taut. I will find you. He shouted, fighting against the malevolent pull of the forest. He felt the weight of something watching, lurking just beyond the veil of trees. But as he pushed on, doubt crept back in. What was left of his family? And what would he have to face to save them? His foot caught on a root, sending him sprawling to the ground, face pressed against the cold earth. As he struggled to regain his footing, a whisper curled around him from the shadows, "You can't escape." What was that? Was it the voice from the figure? The memories of his days in the department sprang forth in fragments, facts of forgotten cases. Did he stumble into something worse than he imagined, a web designed to ensnare him? With determination coursing through him, he gritted his teeth against the encroaching fear. Not this time. He yelled into the darkness, rising again. But a chilling voice countered from the swirling shadows, "What are you willing to lose?" And just like that, another piece of his soul felt at risk. How far would he go? What choices lay ahead? In the depths of the forest, with danger closing in, one thought lingered in Mark's mind: how much could he sacrifice to save them before the darkness took everything away? Mark stumbled deeper into the woods, breathless and on edge. The darkness pressed in, thickening under the weight of his fear. Each crackling branch, each whisper of wind, felt like sharp claws reaching for him. There was nothing but the wild thrumming of his heart, accompanied by echoes of that disembodied laughter. He had to find Emma. Had to find Lily. The forest conspired against him, wrapping him in shadows that tumbled grotesquely around him. Nightmarish shapes danced just at the corners of his vision, flickers of white above the leaves. He could feel them watching, waiting, savoring his torment. Emma. Lily. His voice broke through the suffocating silence, desperation clawing at his throat. But the only response was hollow silence, deep and suffocating, as if even the forest held its breath. Then he caught a glimpse of movement, a flash of something bright, weaving through the trees. His instincts kicked in. He dashed toward the light, branches whipping at his face, roots threatening to trip him again. Mark. The voice came again, faint, but he recognized it. It was Emma, calling from another world so near yet impossibly far. Help us. He pushed harder, adrenaline giving him a burst of speed, but time seemed to distort. Each step felt like it took him further away from her, or worse, leading him toward something far darker. He broke through a thicket into a clearing, and there, in the center, stood a circle of stones with flames licking the night air. At the center, the fire pulled him like a magnet, its warmth contradicting the chill wrapping around his heart. But the heat pulsed with a strange rhythm, as if imbued with a sinister purpose. And in that flickering glow, he saw them. Figures. Shadowy and indistinct at first. Then clearer, Emma and Lily, held captive within a web of shimmering light, their faces pale, features twisted in terror as they searched for him. Mark. Emma's eyes locked onto his. Please, you must. Before she could complete the thought, the shadows coalesced around the fire, morphing into thick and shrouded figures. They stepped close, shrinking the space between them. Mark's breath hitched. Eyes shining with a malevolent hunger, they turned toward him. Do you wish to join them? One whispered, voice dripping with malice. The air turned electric, crackling with their laughter, a chorus of dread that chilled him to the bone. He took a step back, a flicker of resolve igniting within him. He would not allow this dark sacrilege to take his family. Let them go. He screamed, hands clenched into fists. The shadows retreated slightly, considering him with a twisted curiosity. What will you give? They hissed in unison. What price for their lives? Mark's mind raced. What choice did he have? Entirely vulnerable, he had no weapon, no power, except the love for them that coursed through his veins. I will do anything. He shouted, defiance mingling with desperation. The figures drew closer, engulfing him. Anything, they repeated, as if savoring the word. What are you willing to face? The ground trembled beneath him, and a dark voice threaded through the trees. Your greatest fears will be your only guide. He felt a pull, an invisible hand reaching into his mind, dragging forth memories he had tried to bury. The loss, the failures, the haunted cases from his past. Enough. He screamed, shaking his head as if to dislodge the images. But as one pulsed brighter, Mark realized it wasn't just memories, they were choices. The moments he regretted, they demanded payment. Choose. The shadows hissed, their voices melding into a single cacophony, haunting and seductive. Mark's heart raced. He was at a precipice. The fire erupted, illuminating Emma and Lily's terrified forms. Would he sacrifice himself to save them? Or would he lose them both to the darkness? His pulse hammered in his ears, each breath felt charged with impending doom. The forest held its breath as he took one last look at his family, realizing that this moment would define everything. No! He roared, casting aside his fears with newfound resolve. I'll not let this darkness claim me or my family. But the shadows only laughed, low and rhythmic, reverberating through the chill night air. They advanced, wrapping him in their suffocating embrace. And in that moment, as despair clawed at the edges of his mind, he began to realize that the choices laid before him were only the beginning. How far would he have to plunge into the abyss to reclaim what he'd lost? Would he find the courage to confront the truth lurking within him, or was he already too late? Mark struggled against the encroaching shadows, their cold grasp tightening around his limbs like icy chains. Breathless, he fought to maintain his grip on reality, the weight of his memories slamming into him like a freight train. Each face, every lost opportunity, screamed in unison, their voices overshadowed by the sinister laughter foaming around him. "Mark!" Emma's distant cry pierced through the darkness, igniting a spark of defiance deep in his gut. Her voice draped over him like a blanket of warmth in the chilling void. He could not falter now, not when their lives hung in the balance. "No!" He shouted into the abyss, shaking his head violently, chasing away the thoughts carpeted with shame. The cloaked figures drew closer, their features sharpening under the flickering flames, forming grotesque visages that twisted in mockery. One lunged forward, its breath foul and heavy, unsettling his stomach. "What will you sacrifice?" It rasped, a malign grin splitting its face. "We demand a tribute for your beloved." "I won't trade my soul," Mark shouted, his voice rising defiantly against the cacophony. Each word pushed against the chill that enveloped him. But doubt crept in, gnawing at his resolve like rats in a basement. What if surrendering was the only way? What if they never let Emma and Lily go? A shudder rippled through him. "If you won't pay, then join them," the shadows hissed. Suddenly, they erupted into chaos, swirling around the clearing. Mark stumbled backward, fear anchoring him in place. A flash of movement caught his eye. The shimmering light around Emma and Lily was dimming, flickering like a candle caught in a gust. He had to act. "Stop!" He lunged forward, pushing through the throng of shadows as they hissed angrily, a wave of darkness crashing against him. "I'll do whatever you want. Just let them go." With his heart racing, he felt the oppressive weight of their hunger, the enticing whisper of a bargain yet to be struck. He was teetering at the edge of a chasm, his breath coming in short gasps. "Tell me what you want, and I'll give it." The shadows paused, seeming to absorb his desperation. They slowly disentangled from him, retreating into the darkness, and a single figure stepped forward, tall and imposing. Its voice rolled out like thunder, "Face your worst nightmare, and then we shall consider your offer." The ground trembled beneath him. Mark felt as if he were being swallowed whole by the very earth, grotesque visions swirling before him, his childhood home, aflame, the faces of his parents, pleading and forgotten, and then, in the center of it all, a mirror reflecting his deepest sins, all the people he failed. He gasped as an avalanche of guilt surged through him. "Endless choices," sang the shadows, each word dripping with cruel amusement. "You hold the key to their release, but dare you turn it?" The phantom images clawed at his sanity, each task demanding his absolute fear to confront. Mark sank to his knees, overwhelmed, unshackled memories flooding back. He could almost hear the whispers of his partner, haunting him for the lives he couldn't save. The truth of his failings hung over him like a noose, tightening with each passing moment. "Mark!" Emma's voice broke through once more, a pure, resonant note amid the chaos. "We believe in you. Fight for us." He clenched his jaw, a surge of urgency washing through him. Could he truly face this part of himself? A part buried so deep it had long gone stale? But as the shadows gathered, pulsing with anticipation, he realized he had no other choice. Standing up, heart pounding, a fierce flame sparked in his chest. "It ends now," he roared, resolute. "I will confront whatever I must to save my family." And with that declaration, the ground gave way beneath him, dragging him down into the maw of darkness, pulled into a nightmare he never dreamed he would endure. The forest howled in response, the shadows laughing, a cacophony blended with an eerie rhythm. As he fell, a question loomed in the back of his mind: was he ready to embrace the horrors waiting for him, or was this the final act that sealed their fate? The abyss swallowed Mark whole, darkness curling around him like a malevolent serpent. His heart raced as the air thickened, pressing in on him. The weight of all his failures bore down like a stone. Fragments of his life replayed, twisted in agony his mother's final words, the tears of Lily when he failed to protect her. Each vision cut deeper than the last. This was his hell, his to traverse before he could save them. With a sudden jolt, he found himself standing in a familiar place, the old, crumbling foundation of his childhood home. It loomed above him like a specter from the past, charred remains silhouetted against a sinister sky. The cold scent of ash filled his nostrils, and dread clawed at his gut. "Face your demons," a voice slithered through the air, thick with malice. Mark turned, scanning the shadows for the source, but they were too thick, too tangled to reveal themselves. "Enough!" he shouted, fists clenched. "I won't let you control me." His voice echoed back, mocking him. A low chuckle reverberated, sending chills racing down his spine. The shadows morphed, taking on forms that whispered his regrets. Glimpses of moments he wished to erase danced before him, flickering in and out like a faulty light. "Choose," the laughter taunted. "Choose between your shame and your freedom." Mark's resolve wavered. He hadn't faced these memories in years, buried them beneath layers of regret. But sinking deeper into despair wasn't an option, not now. Not when Emma and Lily depended on him. "You think you can scare me?" he shot back, pushing against the thickening atmosphere. "I've seen my worst. What more can you throw at me?" Suddenly, the ground began to tremble, shaking with a violent pulse. The air turned electric, and from the rubble of his home, a figure emerged, his younger self. Wide-eyed and trembling, the boy mirrored Mark's fear, a reflection of the soul he had once been. "Help me," the boy's voice was a haunting whisper, drenched in sorrow. "You left me to suffer alone." A wave of sorrow crashed over Mark, pooling around his feet like oil. "No. I was trying to save you, I thought." "What?" the child interrupted, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "That abandoning me was the answer? You think I forgot?" "Stop!" Mark yelled, clutching his head, drowning in guilt. He staggered backward as the boy advanced, shadowy tendrils swirling around them both, pulling them closer into the fog of despair. "Accept me," the apparition cried, revealing the pain and shame he could no longer ignore. "Only then can you save them, Mom, Dad, Emma, Lily." The memories reformed into the figures of his parents, distorted and broken. "Mark," they whispered in unison, their voices twisting in a mournful lament that reverberated through the broken walls of his childhood home. "We loved you, but you ran." The powerful word struck him like a dart, they tore through his defenses. "I didn't run," he screamed, desperate. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect us?" the figure of his mother answered, her face clouded with sorrow. "Your fear kept you from acting. It's fear that binds you." "Fear is not your enemy," intoned the shadows, slithering back into view. "It is simply a choice, just like your denial. Every moment you allow it to rule you, more anguish follows." As the figures merged and dissolved into the endless abyss, a single thought flared in Mark's mind, a flicker of determination amidst the chaos. He could face this. He could dismantle the weight of his past, brick by brick. But just as clarity started to gather, a sinister wind rose, swirling with a shrill scream that echoed in his skull. "Do you dare to confront it all? Do you dare to embrace the truth?" Mark steadied himself, heart pounding. "I dare," he breathed. The shadows recoiled, undulating in a frenzy. "Very well. Proceed, but remember, every truth demands a sacrifice." And as the darkness spiraled into a vortex, Mark felt himself teetering once again on the edge of reality. The sound of cracking wood behind him made him spin. The sound of something awakening, something worse than his memories, what lay behind him in the shadows, ready to emerge? Could he bind the shadows once and for all? Or would his past unravel into something far more horrifying? The darkness churned like a storm, thick and black, wrapping itself around Mark as he stood frozen. That sound, cracking wood, reverberated again, sharper this time, as if something ancient and angry was stirring from slumber. His heart raced against the confines of his ribcage, each beat an urgent plea for escape. Slowly, he turned back toward the source, every nerve tingling with dread. The shadows felt alive, shifting and writhing, coiling around him like vipers. The air smelled of decay, a richness in the rot that sent bile rising in his throat. There it was again, another crack, this time followed by a guttural growl that rumbled in the dark like an unseen predator. Mark, the voice whispered, sending chills cascading down his spine, a hollow mimicry of his past. It held both the affection of his mother and the bitterness of his defeat. You didn't choose. You never chose. I choose now. He shouted, urging the dwindling spark of his courage to ignite. The shadows recoiled, twisting, writhing with displeasure. I face you. I face all of it. The ground beneath him shuddered violently, splintering apart like his own fractured memories. He staggered, eyes fixed on a figure emerging from the pitch night, a silhouette wrapped in the remnants of his dark past. Its face shimmered with malice, an echo of the child he once was, twisted and distorted, yet undeniably familiar. Why didn't you save me? The apparition cried, the words emerging as a sharp shriek. You let them take me. What about our dreams? Mark clutched his head, heartbeat spiking. The weight of guilt pressed him down, a noose tying tight around his throat. I tried. I was scared. You were lost. I thought it would be easier for both of us. Easier? The younger version of himself hissed, eyes narrowing, shards of darkness glinting within. They took everything and you stood by. The vision morphed again, revealing another familiar face, Lily, her features twisted by sorrow, the soft smile turned to a grimace of betrayal. You could have saved me too. You're just like them. The darkness edged closer, swirling with her voice, coaxing him into the abyss of self-loathing. Mark could feel its pull, dragging at his will. No. Tears burned in his eyes, a mix of rage and despair. I will not let you take me again. The shadows howled, agony piercing the air as if they were wounded, shrieking against the rejection. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to grasp the remnants of his shattered resolve. He took a step forward, heart pounding in his ears. Every ounce of fear screamed at him to flee, but he stood firm. What do you want from me? He demanded, voice trembling yet fierce. Confront your darkness. The shadows roared in a symphony of torment. Only then can you save them. As if summoned by his words, the ground crackled, shards of wood erupting in chaotic splendor. A figure emerged, a monstrous amalgamation of everything he had ever feared, a grotesque mockery of his past selves, merging into a single terrifying form that towered over him. Face the truth. It bellowed, with a voice that felt like ice running through his veins. You can't run anymore. Mark grit his teeth, adrenaline coursing through him. He could still back down, surrender to the darkness, but the faces of Emma and Lily flared in his mind, fury igniting in the pit of his stomach. With each breath, the shadows pressed in tighter, yet a fire ignited within his chest. No more. He lunged forward, rage propelling him. He would confront this monstrosity. He had to confront the hell he had created. But as he hurled himself into the maw of the darkness, reality cracked like glass, splintering around him. A new scream joined the cacophony, not his, but a deeper, anguished roar that seemed to come from the very void itself. And then, the ground erupted beneath him, collapsing, pulling him down into an endless night. What awaited him in the depths? Was this the freedom he sought, or a plunge into something much more despairing? The descent was chaotic, a whirlwind of shadows and screams. Mark felt weightless, spiraling into a void that stretched indefinitely, a nightmare with no end in sight. All around him, whispers clawed at his sanity. They twisted through his mind, each phrase dulling his razor-sharp resolve. You'll never escape, they taunted, their voices a chilling chorus. This is where you belong. The falls of darkness wrapped tighter around him. He gasped, battling against the suffocating blackness. Memories flashed before his eyes, fragmented and stark flashes of a life filled with laughter, warmth, and safety, now tainted by the cruel forces of regret. Their faces blurred, then emerged clearly, Emma's soft eyes, Lily's teasing smile. "Help us, Mark," a voice echoed, resonating from the depths. In the heartbeat of an instant, he was yanked sharply into a new reality. The void dissolved around him, revealing a desolate clearing shrouded in fog, the trees bent and twisted like broken souls. Moonlight filtered through the branches, illuminating glimmers of horror hidden in the shadows. Every sound rang with emptiness, a heavy silence that threatened to swallow him whole. The air felt dense, like a weight pressing against his chest. In that moment, he understood, he was not merely in a place of darkness but a battleground, haunted and alive with the restless spirits of his past. Their silence thrummed with a restless energy, calling him deeper, beckoning him into the heart of his own nightmares. "Face your past," the still air insisted, like a whisper draped in menace. "Only in truth will you find peace." Ahead, a flickering light danced through the oppressive haze. Curiosity tugged at him, pulling him nearer. As he approached, the light transformed into a grotesque tableau, a reflection of his failures. It depicted chilling scenes, visions of helplessness and anguish. There, framed in gleaming light, was the moment he had chosen to look away. There was Lily, reaching out to him, her eyes wide and terrified. "Mark, save me." And there was Emma, her voice soft yet sharp enough to cut through the thick fog of his guilt. "You let me down. You let us down. How could you?" A fresh wave of nausea rolled through him. They felt so near, tangible yet just out of reach. Reality twisted anew, each scene more tormenting than the last. Gritting his teeth, Mark fought against another surge of despair. This maze of guilt would not claim him. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice trembling but fierce against the specters gathering around him. He took a step forward, closer to the light, but the shadows writhed with anger, rising up almost like a physical barrier, eager to pull him back into their depths of despair. "Turn back! Turn back!" they hissed, their voices like 1,000 hissing serpents mingling in the air. But he pressed on, determined to break free from the prison of his own fears. He had to confront this haunting, there was no other way. As he moved closer, the faces of his past became clearer, their pain evident, their regret palpable. Each one like an anchor, dragging him with chains of guilt. "Help us!" they murmured, voices merging with an overwhelming blend of sorrow and accusation. With a sudden ferocity, Mark screamed, a guttural wrenching of emotion. "I can't save you. Not if you don't let me go." The ground trembled underfoot. The shadows trembled, the trees shivered, as though responding to his resistance. A blinding light erupted from the heart of the clearing, cutting through the agony. Mark shielded his eyes, feeling its heat envelop him. But the light also burned bright with memories, the choices he had made, the roads not taken. What if he failed again? The piercing sunlight lifted him, threatening to erase everything he had ever known as the darkness shrank back. And just as suddenly, the light dimmed, revealing a path before him, shadowed yet solid. Will he have the strength to walk it? Or would he let the shadows pull him under once again? It was time to decide. Mark stood at the threshold of the path, heart pounding, error spilling like poison in his veins. The shadows still writhed at the edges of his vision, whispering promises of despair. He looked back over his shoulder, but the twisted tableau of memories only grew more sinister, faces of loved ones contorted in agony, eyes full of accusation. With a trembling breath, he turned forward. The darkness coiled tightly around him, but he was determined to push on. As he stepped onto the path, a chill snaked through him, the ground beneath his feet cold and unforgiving. Each step echoed, a hollow drum beat against the oppressive silence. He glanced at the trees lining the trail, their gnarled branches clawed at the night sky like ghostly fingers reaching for something lost. It felt like they were watching him, waiting. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Time here was twisted, just like the foreboding landscape. He stopped, listening to the heavy silence, punctuated only by the soft rustle of leaves. Every sense screamed at him to turn back, yet he pressed deeper into the heart of shadowy dread. Then he saw it. A flicker of movement just past the trees, something not quite right, pulsating in and out of focus as if it were the very essence of his fears. Mark's heart raced. Was it real or just another trick of the dark? The whispers clung to him, curling up his spine, their chilling tones seducing him into desperation. Embrace the darkness, no more running, ignoring their call. He forced himself to move closer. A flickering light turned solid, revealing a small cabin nestled between the trees like a nefarious secret. The paint was chipped, the windows shattered, but the door stood slightly ajar as if inviting him in. Anxiety tightened his chest, but curiosity pulled at him, an insidious grip that he couldn't shake. He hesitated but then walked to the door. The moment his hand grazed the rough surface, a rush of memories surged back. Drunk laughter echoed, a night of shadows and poor decisions, flickering like an old film reel. And there she was, Emma, golden hair illuminated by firelight, her laughter echoing sweetly. But then it changed, her face twisting in terror, screams boiling beneath the surface of a tainted memory. Mark stumbled back as the door creaked open further, a dark void yawning before him. He could only hear the pounding of his heart, echoing in the silence. It felt like inviting death itself inside. The air was thick, a maelstrom of anxiety and palpable fear. "Help us, Mark." The voices surged again, drawing him in like moths to a flame. They came from somewhere within, pleading and urgent, a chilling reminder of the burden on his soul. He stood frozen, a prisoner of his own making, torn between the desire to turn away and the desperate need for closure. Just step inside, the darkness urged, tempting him with promises of release from guilt. He couldn't breathe. The weight of the past lured him, threatening to pull him into that cabin, where every regret awaited him. But what if stepping inside offered no solace? What if it only deepened the torment? Clenching his fists, he took one tentative step forward, then another. The shadows slithered around him, whispering, "You will never escape." He reached for the door again, grasping the handle. The world outside felt distant, surreal. And just as he pushed the door open, a scream pierced the stillness, sending shockwaves of ice through his veins. It was a voice he knew well, one that shattered the enclosing darkness around him. "Mark, wait." He froze, heart pounding, caught between the threshold of damnation and the precipice of truth. Who was that? Who's calling out now? The shadows danced eagerly as he stared into the abyss of the cabin, and the darkness surged forward. Would he step inside to uncover the secrets that awaited, or be consumed by the screams from within? The choice lay before him, a treacherous gamble with his very soul. What awaited him in that haunted place? As the door swung wide, a chilling realization gripped him. Sometimes truth was the darkest horror of all. Mark stepped into the cabin, the door creaking ominously behind him. The air was thick with dust and the stench of decay. Each breath tasted stale, flavored by memories lurking just out of sight. The interior was dimly lit, shadows clinging to every corner, tucked away like terrible secrets waiting to spring forth. Cruel whispers flitted through the air, taunting him, singing a song of despair. He fought the urge to turn back. He couldn't let fear win again, not when Emma and Lily were in danger. Ahead, the feeble glow of a flickering lantern illuminated the whisper's origin. Stacked on a rickety table were photographs, each image a frozen moment of his life, cherished memories now stained by haunting regret. His eyes gravitated toward a photo of Emma, smiling at him, her joy all but a distant echo. But behind her smile, shadows lurked. "Mark, help us," echoed around him again, a heartbreaking melody laced with sorrow. It mingled with the photographs, coiling around him like an unseen branch, pulling him irresistibly toward a memory sharp and raw. Before he could process it, the image shifted, smoothing into an unrecognizable face, one that mirrored his own yet twisted in pain. It was the boy he had abandoned, the one who had whispered for help in the dark corners of his mind. "Why didn't you save me?" the younger Mark cried, eyes wide with the anguish of betrayal. "You chose to forget." "No," Mark gasped, his voice trembling as guilt crashed over him in suffocating waves. "I was afraid. I thought I could protect everyone if I stayed hidden." "Hidden? You hid from the truth, from me." The air vibrated with an enveloping tension, shadows swirling in fury. Mark staggered back, trying to eradicate the shame clawing at him. "What do you want from me?" "I want to save my family. I want to right the wrongs. I want to face my past." A low growl filled the room, thrumming with malevolence. The dark form of the being he faced in the forest materialized, its voice a cacophony of every doubt and fear he had. "You think you can just forget the cost of choices? Every step you take divides your heart, your spirit. Will you choose their safety now?" "Yes." Mark cried out, determination crystallizing amid the chaos. "I'll face my demons. I'll confront the choices that brought me here." As if responding to his resolve, the room trembled violently. The walls screamed past regrets, they shuddered and morphed, revealing every moment he wished to erase, every time he had faltered. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by their weight, yet the flickering light focused brighter, illuminating a singular truth he had to embrace it all. "Stop fighting. Embrace us." The shadows shrieked, drawing closer, clawing for his heart. Their clamoring voices echoed his greatest hurts, painting a vivid picture of loss and missteps. Clenching his jaw, Mark balled his fists. "No. I will not drown in the pain. I will use it." In that moment of clarity, a beam of radiant light enveloped him, washing away the shadow's grip. He could feel the warmth spreading in his chest, igniting an inferno of hope and courage. A path materialized, the choice was his. He could break this cycle. With his heart racing with renewed strength, he stood taller, ready to confront them once and for all. "What price must I pay to free my family?" The beast paused, the uproar stilled for a mere heartbeat. "Face your greatest fear, to be completely alone with nothing left to hold on to." His breath caught. The silence rang louder than any scream. He felt it wrap around him, chilling through every fiber of his being. But out of the void, he could feel something anchor him: Emma and Lily. Their love reached him across the shadows, powerful enough to push back the darkness. "I choose to face my fear," he shouted into the gloom, his voice firm and unwavering. "I choose love over suffering. I choose safety over despair." As he spoke, the shadows recoiled, dissipating, their shrill cries merging into a cacophony of defeat. The room shook violently, and light burst forth, pushing back the darkness, tearing apart the cabin around him. With one final leap of faith, he surged forward, bursting through the remnants of his past and into the light. Mark found himself outside beneath the pale moonlight, the familiar forest surrounding him once more, but this time, calmness reigned. A rustle in the distance froze his heart in anticipation. "Emma! Lily!" he called out, the sound echoing through the trees. And then, emerging from the shadowed woods, he saw them, his family, beautiful and whole. Emma ran to him, cradling him in her arms while Lily clung to his side. "Dad! We thought we lost you," Lily cried, her eyes brimming with tears of joy. Mark held them tightly, the warmth of their embrace enough to chase away every lingering doubt. "I'm here. I won't let anything take you away again. I will protect you with everything I have." With a final glance back at the fading shadows of regret, he breathed deeply, knowing he had stared into the abyss and chosen to rise instead of fall. As they turned to leave the haunted woods behind, Mark felt lightness return to his spirit, a reminder that love was healing. It could conquer the darkness, rewrite the cursed rules. They ventured forth, ready to rewrite their story together, where laughter and love would always shine brighter than fear. Don't let this moment end here. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will leave you breathless. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help others join our adventure. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share your thoughts, your emotions. And don't wait even one more second. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. True fans like you know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.